Hi everyone. I wanted to answer a couple of questions that I'm often asked during our team topologies trainings or after meetup talks and so on. And the first question is, aren't Tiger or feature teams kind of ideal for fast flow, since we're always talking about organizing for fast flow? Well, the thing is, feature teams typically take shortcuts around existing issues in team responsibilities and architecture of the systems by allowing one team to change anything they need and in order to deliver a feature. So it's kind of a short-term gain. We get the feature out faster, but we have to think about what happens next. Who is going to deal with any incidents that might or might not be related to the changes made for this feature? And so instead, we should focus on cross-functional teams that can own the end-to-end life cycle of the software. This means that they design, they code, they test, they deploy, they support their service or product. We want them to be independent so that they're able to deliver as quickly as possible. So if teams have to hand off work to other teams, it can easily start to take up more and more time. So typically up to 85% longer to deliver a piece of functionality because of the wait times and the scheduling problems between different teams and the coordination issues. And so with true streamlined teams, we avoid that. And we also allow teams to maintain clear ownership of the software runtime as well and the responsibility to respond to problems. And so feature teams are kind of a short-term gain, but in the long run, they actually slow down the organization because it's going to be more difficult to both make more changes when the software and the code bases are shared by many teams, and it's also going to make it more difficult to respond to problems quickly because we have more surface and more teams have touched the same code, and it's going to be harder to diagnose where the problem is and who is responsible to fix it or who knows how to fix it. So we're going to focus on that during a training that we're running this week called Principles and Practices for Streamlined Teams this Thursday, 4th of June. And kind of related to that, another question that I get very often is, if we're always going to have dependencies between teams, so kind of why even bother? Why do we need this end-to-end ownership by streamlined teams if there's always going to be some dependencies? And I agree with that. It's not like we can reduce dependencies to zero, but we can change the type of the dependencies. So when we talk about self-organizing, you can self-organize all you want, but if you don't provide the team the tools and capabilities, this kind of new autonomy is not going to translate into faster software delivery. It's like saying, I'm not going to give you the fish because you need to learn fishing, but the team is already at full capacity with their other tasks and has no fishing knowledge to start with. So it's kind of a contradiction. We can't just ask teams to be more autonomous without giving them the competences and the tools. So we need to think about the two things together, the capabilities and the autonomy. Otherwise, teams are going to continue to struggle because they are going to have cognitive overload, anxiety, and not enough slack to improve and get better. So they're going to keep taking shortcuts, going to keep facing problems, and kind of do things half-heartedly because they don't have the time and the capacity available to do better. So we actually need other teams to come in and have a supporting role. And that might be by providing self-service capabilities on some kind of lower level functions such as infrastructure or deployment and test environment, whatever it might be. Or other teams that might work as a kind of internal consultants. We call them enabling teams that facilitate knowledge to other teams and dramatically reduce the learning curve to get familiarized with new domains of knowledge in the streamlined teams. Things like security, test automation, data privacy, databases, whatever it might be that the team is struggling with. If we have another team that's facilitating that knowledge, not just to one team, but to multiple teams, that is very powerful. And that is kind of actually giving them the tools to do the fishing themselves, rather than just saying you are now responsible to do the fishing. So it's really the key to move away from team dependencies that impact the flow of work. They require handoffs between teams, and instead of the kind of healthier or soft dependencies, as I like to call them, is based on the need to gain certain capabilities and competences that another team can provide, either via services or via facilitating knowledge. And this is independent from the actual stream of work. So it's something that can happen simultaneously. So if